Hey, good people, how y'all doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be giving you all my review on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episode 10. Guys, in my opinion, Heather looked like a complete fool. Jen looked like a complete fool. Lisa looked like a complete fool. The list goes on and on. I'm not buying this whole Angie K being upset with Jen because Jen didn't pay for Coach's birthday party. I think that she's just upset because she got that drink poured on her head and she's trying to make something out of nothing as far as the party is concerned. But of course, I do believe that she is well in her right to feel a certain type of way with having Jen do what she did to her. I do believe that. But that whole coach thing, girl, it's been 3 months. You have not said anything to her about it. Let it go. Okay. You willingly paid for that party and it is what it is. So when the episode opens up, Jen is still coming for Angie K. She's talking to Heather and Meredith about her. And Heather just agrees with everything Jen says, even though she told Danna that she would be pissed if Jen poured the drink on her head. We all know it's not cool to have had that drink poured on Angie's head. Point blank and the period. You cannot defend the indefensible, in my opinion. For whatever reason, Heather decides to throw Lisa Barlow in it, telling Jen that Lisa immediately took sides with Angie. Do y'all think that Jen was even thinking about Lisa? Y'all let me know what y'all think about that in the comment section. Personally, I do not. She was focused on Angie because Angie straight up embarrassed her during the last episode. Also, why in the world is Heather trying to throw Lisa into the mix? Like, Lisa has nothing to do with this whole situation, Heather. I mean, like, girl, what are you doing here? And this is why, you know what? Some of the things that Lisa is saying about Heather not being or wanting to be a good friend with her makes sense because the first chance you get, you trying to start some drama between Lisa and Jen. And it just really had no place in this particular conversation. It really did not. Now we see that Jen is focused on Lisa, and I believe that she turns her energy on Lisa because she knows that Lisa is pretty much an easier target. Okay, she was not expecting Angie K to get all up into her during that car ride on the way there. And so she's definitely licking her wounds from that situation. But again, she knows that Lisa is an easy target. So, of course, she's going to come after Lisa now. The women are all upstairs on the yacht. They're trying to party, have a good time. They're drinking. Lisa's over there trying to, have a good time with Jen, and Jen is not feeling it. Lisa realizes something is wrong. She's trying to figure out what exactly did she do to Jen to warrant Jen to treat her this way. So she's chasing Jen around the boat. She's like bear hugging her, holding her hands as Jen is trying to get away. And I'm like, girl, you look so pathetic right now. Have you no dignity? Have you no pride? You know how Jen is. Why are you doing this to yourself? So finally, Lisa has had enough. So she's like, you know what, Jen? Stop being a bitch. I have done nothing to you. Heather comes around. She's trying to get these women under control. She separates them. For whatever reason, Jen is crying. Lisa goes downstairs with the other women. At this point in time, it's a whole mess. Of course, here we go again with Jen playing the victim. Lisa says in her confessional, Jen is as fake as her entire body. That had me dying. Let me tell you one thing about Lisa Barlow. When she is really upset with someone, that's how you know how she really feels. So now we know exactly what she thinks of Jennifer Shah. Because prior to this episode, I had never heard her talk about Jen or her appearance like this before. Heather is consoling Jen, saying that she knows she has never been ambushed like this before. And I'm like, hold up. Just last year, if I'm not mistaken, you women kind of put forth an intervention with Jen, if I do recall correctly. So what are you talking about? Anywho, Whitney now comes over and I'm like, Whitney, go back downstairs with the rest of these women. It's like for me sometimes, and you guys let me know what you think, Whitney tries to play middle of the road, okay? Like we saw this during the last episode when Jen was completely wrong. Whitney said as much in her confessional, but yet she, Heather, and Meredith were the first three to go outside and be with Jen instead of checking on Angie. And now we kind of see the same thing again. Here goes Whitney coming to go check on Jen because she didn't go and see about her. That's what I get. And then not much longer after that, we see that Whitney goes downstairs and joins the rest of the women with Lisa. So the women are downstairs and they're all trying to figure out what happened between Lisa and Jen. Like, where did things go wrong? Whitney says that these women should take accountability. And I'm like, Whitney, shut up. Meredith feels the same way that I feel. She's like, you know what? I'm not going to take a lecture from Whitney. So she decides to get up and walk away. Heather's upstairs joking with Jen that Jen should throw Angie's purse overboard to teach Angie a lesson. Jen takes Angie's shoes and throws it into the water. I'm like, what gives this woman the right to do this? And no rebuke from either from Meredith nor from Heather. I don't understand why you guys are applauding this lady's bad behavior. It's terrible. Heather, not being a fool, she decides, let me go get my shoes so that she doesn't try throwing my shoes overboard, because at this point it doesn't even appear that Jen really knows what belongs to who. So while she's getting her shoes, Heather spots one of Whitney's shoes and she puts Whitney's shoe in the bag as well. But Jen takes the other shoe that belongs to Whitney and throws that into the water as well. One of the producers are downstairs and they tell the women that there's some shoes floating in the water. The women all are going crazy, hoping that it's not one of their shoes. So they all run upstairs. Danna can't find her shoes, so she realizes that it actually is my stuff that's in the water. And of course, Whitney has one, and Heather, taking up for Jen, says it was an accident that her shoe fell into the water. Okay, girl. Okay. So now, once again, here you go looking like Bobo the Fool, defending this mean, vile person. Because that's exactly what Jen Shah is, okay? I don't care what anybody says. Yes, I do believe that there have been moments with her on this show that she's been really good for TV, but that nasty side of her, no. No. The side that makes you feel like you think you could go and take people's stuff and throw it in the water? Absolutely not. If I'm one of these other women, and this is the thing that I don't understand about them, I would be taking any and everything of Jen's and throwing it into the water if I'm Angie and if I'm Whitney. Okay? You would not have nothing coming back to the house that you left the house with. The boat ride is over. Jen is drunk, so she falls asleep on Heather's lap. Danna says in her confessional that she feels like Heather is different when she is face to face with Jen. They show the flashback where Heather is questioning her friendship with Jen when she, Danna, and Angie H went out to the bakery together. And Danna brings this up. She says that Heather is not being honest with herself. The ladies arrive back at the house and leave Jen in the van sleeping. And my first thought was, you guys are at the house. Why not bring Jen into the house so that she can sleep in her bed? Why would y'all just leave her in the van like this? According to the producer's calculations, Jen was sleeping in the van for about an hour and a half before she wakes up. She says in her confessional that she took a nap and it's all about aloha. She is now rejuvenated and ready to host this dinner for the ladies that evening. Heather calls Angie H. She wishes that Angie was there and tells her about the drama that happened between Jen and Angie K. To Angie H's surprise, she can't believe that those were the two that were getting it in with one another. She was for sure that it would be Danna and Jen. And this is where, Heather, I can see exactly what Danna is talking about. Here you are talking about Jen in a way that if Jen was there, she would not be okay with. Angie kind of tells Heather that she's questioning if Jen will be reasonable when it counts towards Heather. Like if something went down, how can you be sure that Jen will have your back? You can't be, because she won't. Lisa calls her husband and tells him about the fight between she and Jen. John is tired of people putting their hands on Lisa. And to that, I say, you know what, John, I completely understand and agree with you. However, your wife allows that to happen to her. She needs to do a better job of protecting and defending herself. Lisa brings up the fact that Jen has been talking behind Heather's back every chance she gets. She doesn't understand why Lisa is saying that she's not consistent toward her, given how she's been talking behind Heather's back. And I'm like, you know what? That is a great point. These women do it to each other, though. Lisa says, you guys are all crazy. This is crazy time. This is what she's saying in her confessional. John advises Lisa to remove herself from the situation if Jen goes sideways. He doesn't want anything to happen to his wife. I really like John. I really, truly do. Lisa, girl, you got a good one. But can I say something? Why does Lisa call John all the time like he is one of the girls? Do y'all notice that? It's like every time there's an issue that someone has with Lisa, the first person she has to call is John. I have to call John. I have to call John. Where's John? I have to call John. It's just, girl, that man is not thinking about you, okay? The way that you work him, he is glad to have a couple of days of peace where he doesn't have to hear your mouth. The ladies are now downstairs. They're all getting ready for the party. Jen arrives and there's drums beating in the background. Angie K is like, hold up. I thought it was an earthquake. I'm like, yep, Jen can definitely be described as an earthquake. So outside, Jen has provided some fire dancers as entertainment, and Angie K in her confessional jokes that she's going to have to pull them to the side after their performance just to let them know that they more than likely will not get paid. I'm like, not Angie coming for Jen yet again. The thing I feel like with Angie is like, prior to the whole drink being poured on her head, oh, Jen is my best friend, best friend, best friend. That's all you heard when she was talking about Jen. Best friend this, best friend that. And now because she did what she did to you, you're turning on her and you're, really trying to make light of this whole legal case that she has going on. I don't really like that. Okay, you could be mad at me as my friend, but you don't have to like really, go at me like that. That's just my opinion. How much of best friends were you guys to one another? The ladies get a dance lesson. Meredith says in her confessional she has no hips and no butt. What do you want from me? What do you expect me to be doing with these dance moves? I am with you, but she is there trying her best. So now the ladies sit down and they eat. Of course, Heather is singing Jen's praises about how she put everything together. They have these strippers come. It's like two strippers. And I'm like, okay, they about to put on a little show. Lisa is over there acting like she can't be danced on. Like, oh no, I don't want to be, I don't want this. I don't want this. Meanwhile, I secretly do believe that she does. She's in her confessional talking about the only person that she wants to see naked is her husband. Yeah, okay, Lisa. Only person who really dances with the strippers is, no surprise, it's Whitney. She's like, I have two kids and a husband. I'm going to take this lap dance. I'm like, okay, girl, do what you got to do. And the thing about the whole stripper thing is like, these women are not really loose like that. Like, they don't really let their hair down like that. So having strippers for them, it really did absolutely nothing, which we see. They're all just pretty much carrying on, eating their food, completely unfazed. Jen, you definitely could have saved your coins for this one and put them towards your lawyer fees. Angie asks Danna how her first girls trip is going. Danna says it's going good, but she feels like the energy is off and thinks that it needs to be addressed. She brings up the argument that she's had with Jen, saying that she feels like Jen was not nice to Angie H at Heather's choir rehearsal. Then, for whatever reason, she decides to bring Heather into the mix and she says, Heather, you know how I felt. Heather said, yes, and I told you that you should talk to Jen about it. Danna says, well, you said that if Jen gave you an ultimatum, you would not be friends with Jen anymore. The look on Heather's face and that long swig of Chardonnay that she takes, baby, you know it's about to go down. Now, Danna, two things. That is not what our dear sister Heather said. She said that if Jen made her pick between she and Angie H, she would say, are you for real? The fact that you are giving me an ultimatum and Angie is not, that should be evidence enough to me right there of who I should pick. I'm just looking at Danna like, Danna, if you're going to tell the story, then tell it correctly. Secondly, girl, worry about yourself and your issues with Jen. We don't need you to be the bone collector for everybody else, okay? Collect your bones first. Heather says what Angie's husband did was absolutely wrong, and then promising to post an apology, Danna cuts her off. She's like, Heather, but you know why they couldn't do the apology. Jen is over here looking completely confused. Heather is sitting there with her mouth wide open. Danna says that Angie spoke to her legal team and was advised not to do it because they did not want to have the Harringtons associated with Jen. Now, Jen has her mouth wide open like, what? Heather is kind of staring Danna down like, I can't believe you. For me at this point in time, this is exactly what you get, Heather. You told Danna last episode not to come for you, so she's coming for Jen instead. Jen says that she did not do anything to them. They're the ones who set up the fake account. Danna says that she and Heather told Angie that she needs to talk to Jen about everything. Heather's like, no, I said she needs to settle the score. Danna tells Heather that you told Angie she doesn't need to make a public apology. Heather says, yes, I said that a public apology would be ridiculous because you would be admitting to a horrible, indefensible thing, to horrible, indefensible things that no one in this world would ever forgive you for. Heather, girl, nobody in this world is thinking about Jen Shah. Okay, shut up. You don't even make any sense. Jen looks at Heather and says, what about me? So she's piping up, and her and Heather are going back and forth at this particular point in time. Heather then tells Danna, you need to be very clear with your words right now. And the fact that you are making this about me, Danna's like, listen, I just remembered everything that you said. Heather says that she has been very clear about the Harringtons being wrong. She wants to know why Danna is so invested in this whole situation. I want to know too. Angie K then chimes in and says, "You guys have been out to dinner. That's probably why she feels." And then Heather cuts Angie off and says, "Angie, after the day you had, I would sit there and listen and maybe not try to take a side swipe." I don't know why I was laughing so hard at this particular point in time. I'm just like, oh my God, they're ganging on your girl, and Whitney and Lisa have absolutely nothing to do with it. Angie is like, there's no side swipes. Heather tells her, "You have two ears and one mouth." Like, girl, shut your mouth and just listen. Angie tells Heather, "Your mouth is going like this," and she holds her hands up, mimicking a motor mouth, and goes on to tell Heather that she has a lot of BS coming out of her mouth. Heather says, "Girl, name one thing." Angie points to Jen and says, "This girl continues a friendship with you, and I don't know why." This, of course, confused me. So now we're dragging Jen back into the situation, and Angie wants to know why Jen is friends with Heather. I am so confused at this particular point in time. Like, first of all, what did Heather do to you, Angie? Like, what happened? Tell us what happened. Secondly, you and Jen are beefing. Now all of a sudden it looks like you're defending Jen. What is going on? Heather says, "I'm trying to understand you guys' relationship because Jen just threw your shoes over into the water." Up until this point, nobody knew exactly what happened to Angie's shoes, and Heather has now spilled the beans. Angie completely overlooks this and asks Heather if she feels like she's a good friend to Jen. Heather says, "Yes, the deposits that I've made into our friendship should give me some grace." Now, you and I both know you are not getting not an ounce, not an inch of grace from Jennifer Shah. The only person that Jen Shah believes needs grace is herself, okay? To me, Heather, you're either incredibly smart or incredibly not. And right now you're looking like the latter. Lisa says this conversation is not consistent to what Whitney and Jen have talked about when they were in Whitney's hot tub. She brings up the fact that Jen has been talking ish about Heather behind her back. And I'm sorry, these two, both Jen and Heather, cancel each other out because they've both been talking ish behind each other's back. Lisa says that Jen came for her earlier. Jen is like, "When did I come for you?" She looks completely confused and doesn't seem to remember that she completely lost her mind towards Lisa earlier in the day. At this particular time, I'm thinking this would be a good time for Meredith to bring some fun into the group. Let's kind of lighten the mood a little bit. Meredith does say in her confessional that she knows Jen is not in a very good mental state to be so upset and drunk that you don't have a recollection of what happened. This is not good. I'm like, yes, Meredith for the win. Lisa in her confessional calls Jen a liar and says it does not matter what Jen does to you, only what you do to her. And that completely sums up Jen in a nutshell. Danna reminds Jen that she shoved Lisa. Of course, Jen still doesn't remember this, and she calls these women effed up. And I'm like, why exactly are these women effed up, Jen? I am so tired of you always playing the victim. Own up to the fact that you are just an all-around effed up person. So now she and Lisa are going at it again. Lisa says to Jen that she has an issue if anyone is friends with Heather. She tells her she is mean and points out how she treated Angie earlier. Right after Lisa says this, Jen calmly apologizes to Angie for pouring the drink on her head. And at this point, it's almost as if Jen is an entirely different person. She apologizes and it really appears to be sincere, but we've all seen this from Jen before, okay? It's only a matter of time before her and Angie K are going at it again. So Angie says to Jen, "I really feel like you mean it." She accepts Jen's apology. And both me and Lisa at this particular point in time are looking like, what the F is going on here? You guys were just at each other's throats earlier, and now all of a sudden, Angie, you forgive Jen just like that? So Lisa tries to say something, and Jen cuts her off like, "I'm talking to Angie right now, not you." Now we see that Jen is back to being that nasty, mean girl that we all know her to be. Lisa says, "Well, let's stay with the issue at hand." And she brings Heather back into the mix and says, "You've been talking ish behind Heather's back." At this time, I just feel like this is a tennis match. Everyone is going back and forth, and my head is spinning. Jen says both you and Whitney brought this whole thing up. She does look briefly at Heather and tells Heather that she was talking ish behind her back, and then she goes back to fighting with Lisa like nothing ever happened. Angie then tells Jen, "You need to tell Heather what you've been saying about her." Jen tells Heather how she felt felt when Heather invited Angie H to the choir rehearsal. She says that her feelings were hurt. Heather brings up the fact that Angie showed up with a matching outfit with Whitney. Whitney is like, why are you bringing me into this? And I totally agree. Girl, what does this have to do with the price of tea in China? So what that these two showed up to your choir event with matching outfits? So Heather goes on to say that she had no idea that Angie H was coming with Whitney. And it's almost as if at this point in time, Heather wants Jen to come for Whitney like she was able to get her to come for Lisa earlier in the day. Do y'all see that? Whitney says to Heather, you invited us. And I completely agree with Whitney. Heather girl, we all know you invited both Whitney and Angie H. Heather says, I guess I meant I did not know they would show up with matching outfits. Heather, girl, just stop talking, as Juice Sedora would say. What you are saying makes no sense. You're using Whitney and the matching outfits to deflect. And can you guys imagine if she actually did bring Angie H on this trip? How things would be going down right now? It would be a hot mess. It really would. Heather said she would have orchestrated everything better so that Jen and Angie would not cross paths. Jen feels like Heather should have nothing to do with Angie after Angie's husband created that fake account. Heather says we are all friends with her. Lisa says, I'm not friends with her. Heather tells Jen she will not end her relationship with Angie H. Jen then says that she needs to know where everyone stands. She only knows where Angie K stands. Once again, say what now? I see exactly what you are doing, Jen. You're trying to make sure that you don't have to pay for Coach's party. Because just a couple of hours ago, you were throwing this woman's stuff off the boat, pouring champagne on her head, talking about her to anybody who would listen. And now all of a sudden, you know where you and Angie K stand. Girl, bye. Lisa gets up. She's talking about her son is missing her and she needs to phone home. And I'm like, Lisa, please. Them boys are not thinking nothing about you. We knew from season 1 that you are an absentee mom. You guys remember when the sitter used to take care of Lisa's kids and she knew more about them than Lisa did? Y'all remember that. Heather gets up too. She's done with everything. Jen says she needs to know what category to put Heather in, and Heather says, find another Heather. And that pretty much ends the episode. Guys, let me know what you all thought. Like I said, this episode towards the end was like a tennis match. They were really coming for Heather. Then Lisa was coming for Jen. Jen and Angie K made up. Danna was stirring the pot. It was just so much going on. Let me know what you all thought. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.